to Mark My Words. I'm your host, Mark Skoll Jr. Unfortunately, we were going to be covering some high school baseball tonight in the matchup between Anderson and Lehman High School, but due to inclement weather, the games were canceled. I know it's not raining right now here in Austin, Texas, but the fields were not in great condition to be played in. So the game, I know the Anderson High School team and the Lehman baseball game will be moved tomorrow at 3:30 at IE Nelson Field. So I'm sorry that the game was canceled, but you'll get to be with me for 45 minutes and then play a rerun of the Austin Anderson High School baseball game that was happened a couple weeks ago. Well, last weekend the Texas spring game took place, the orange and white scrimmage, and the big question going into the scrimmage was Tyrone Swoops or Gerard Hurd. Who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Texas football team next year? At the beginning of the last season, David Ash went down with a concussion in the first game of the season, and Tyrone Swoops was forced to play against the BYU game and the rest of the season. Tyrone Swoops kind of struggled last year quite a bit, to be honest, and I know everyone was hoping that Gerard Hurd would outplay him in the scrimmage. And for my opinion, I went to the game with my buddy John, and Swoops, they both weren't impressive. They didn't show anything to me like, wow, like this guy could win us some football games next year. And like going into that spring game, I was like really excited for football in Austin next year and coming up. I wanted the season to start right now. And after, when I walked out, I was like, oh, maybe I can wait a couple months before football starts. Tyrone Swoops, he threw for 17 of 31, 159 yards. He had one horrible interception, but he also had one touchdown pass that was dropped by Dorian Leonard in the end zone that Dorian Leonard could have hauled in. He just didn't hold it for long enough. He had it, he just lost it. But yeah, none of Swoops' passes, neither quarterback threw for a touchdown pass. They both had rushing touchdowns on the first drive. And the thing is, I'm sure the defense looked impressive, like always. Malik Jefferson, wow, that guy's going to be a stud next year. I'm excited to see him. But the defense in a spring game, they're not going 110% because one, you don't want to get you don't want to get the offense hurt, and two, they don't want to. They just don't want to hurt anybody. I mean, that's the main thing. Like, they don't want to hurt anybody. They're not going 100%. They're not going to be running full speed, not going to be tackling at full speed. So the offense is supposed to look really good. But Tyrone Swoops and Gerard Hurd both struggled significantly. 17 for 31 for 159 yards from Swoops, that's nothing. That's barely anything. And I was hoping Hurd would win the job, and Charlie Strong said before the spring game that Hurd has closed the gap on the competition, but then afterwards he said, Tyrone Swoops, he's our guy right now. He's the starter. I haven't said anything about Hurd beating out Swoops, but Hurd is just closed the gap. That's all. And Hurd ended up completing 20 of 29 passes for 177 yards, but against mainly the first string defense. But then again, it doesn't mean anything. It's spring football scrimmage against your own team. People aren't going to be getting hurt. But the main reason why I think the quarterbacks ended up struggling was because the offensive line is terrible. I know last year, Dominic Espinoza went down against North Texas the first game of the season. He was out, and the offensive line was just rearranged the whole year. We saw seemed like a different lineup every single game. And this scrimmage, I know the defense isn't supposed to be going 100%, but it seemed like there was someone in Gerard Hurd's face or Tyrone Swoops' face in every single play. Like, you can blame so much on the quarterback, but the offensive line's got to give him time. And I know Gerard Hurd, he'd scramble a couple times, and that got him in trouble, which isn't necessarily the offensive line's fault. But he really, besides that first drive, and besides Swoops and Hurd's first drive, I wasn't impressed with either of them. I wasn't impressed with any of the quarterbacks, not even Trey Holtz or any of those other guys. I think from the quarterback position, it's going to be a tough year. Personally, I say you go with Hurd because you know what you're going to get with Swoops. Swoops he can't really throw the ball that well. He's a big guy. He can run over some people, but that's it. and he doesn't even run over people that well. So I would definitely want Hurd to be starting in South Bend next year against Notre Dame. I think he gives us the best opportunity to win a game. But then again, I still don't think we end up beating Notre Dame. I think Texas ends up getting killed by Notre Dame. I think Texas just needs to get another quarterback. I know Kai Loxley came in, former Florida State commit came in. He committed to Texas now, and I know he probably won't be starting week 1 for Texas, but I think he should end up being the guy. I wish Zach Gentry would have ended up coming to Texas, because Texas could have used someone like that. Texas just needs a quarterback. That's their main problem. The defense is definitely going to struggle, I think, next year, because they lost all of their playmakers on defense. Quandre Diggs, Jordan Hicks, Malcolm Brown, all those guys. It's going to be tough for Texas to compete defensively, and that's what made them able to compete next year. But one other thing I'm looking forward to on the offensive side of the ball I had 2 standouts on the offensive side of the ball. I know everyone going into the game, everyone's talking about Dorian Leonard, the wide receiver, number 89. I wasn't that impressed with him. I think he can run routes very well. He gets open so well, but as soon as the ball hits him, it's like his hands turn into bricks and he drops the ball every time. I know he dropped that Tyrone Swoops touchdown pass that would have been a really great catch. It was a perfect throw. Just Dorian Leonard couldn't hold it in. And then the first throw of the game, Tyrone Swoops just had a quick pass right to Dorian Leonard, dropped it. An easy pass. Dorian Leonard, he's definitely going to be someone Swoops or Hurd, whoever is going to be quarterback for Texas next year, looks to on a consistent basis, and he definitely needs to step it up. Maybe it was just that spring game jitters playing in front of, because this is the first time Dorian Leonard's actually seen the field, so he was probably a little bit nervous. I'm hoping that he ends up becoming a great wide receiver for Texas, because after losing John Harris and Jackson Shipley, Texas is definitely going to need all the help they can get. But the one wide receiver I was impressed with the most was Lorenzo Joe. Lorenzo Joe, he didn't play at all last year, but he was a freshman. But he looked really good. There was a couple of times where he made something out of nothing, and he made some spectacular diving catches. And these aren't great quarterbacks who are thrown to him either. But I think Lorenzo Joe is definitely someone to watch next year. I think he can end up being he'll probably be the number 2 target in my opinion, behind Marcus Johnson. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching them next year. And then, of course, Malik Jefferson, linebacker. He graduated a semester early from high school just so he could be here with the team in Texas, and he looked impressive. I know, I was kind of nitpicky with Malik Jefferson just because I didn't think he was going fast enough. I thought he was kind of slow out of gaps and stuff. But I think and then when he was going full speed, which you're not doing primarily in a spring scrimmage against your own team, he looked great. He forced a fumble. He got to the quarterback a couple times, had a tackle for a loss in the backfield. This guy, he's going to end up being a stud. My friend John, he said before the game, he is a Packers fan, so I don't know how credible this is. He said that Malik Jefferson reminds him a lot of Clay Matthews, just how aggressive this guy is. And if we have a guy like Clay Matthews on the defensive side of the ball next year, I think missing with Jordan Hicks, Quandre Diggs, and Malcolm Brown, we won't even know that they're gone. I think Malik Jefferson definitely will be staple in that defense for a very long time if he stays for 4 years, which would be nice. And then another guy we're supposed to be seeing a lot from is Dejae Johnson, the wide receiver. He fumbled once from the hit from Malik Jefferson, and then he muffed a punt. I mean, this guy's supposed to be a veteran on this team, and he hasn't impressed at all. And then he had some off the field problems last year too. I think he definitely needs to step it up if Texas wants to do good too, because he's definitely one of the leaders now that a lot of people are gone, and I think definitely he's going to be someone to watch out for. But one of the other surprises I enjoyed was Donta Foreman, who's the running back, not the Almonte Foreman, the wide receiver, the running back from Texas City High School. He got most of the carries because Jonathan Gray, Texas doesn't need Jonathan Gray getting hurt. And Donta Foreman, he was was running over people. He made some good runs, and he's definitely going to be a great number 2 back behind Jonathan Gray next year, and it's something I'm looking very forward to. Not the quarterback play so much. I know Gerard Hurd, I'll give him some credit. He did fit some passes in some tight windows, and that was really impressive. I definitely think we should go with Hurd. Texas should go with Hurd just because you know what you're going to get from Swoops. Hurd, he's just something new, something to get the fans excited, and I think that's the way Texas should end up going. All right, well, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with you in a few short moments. This has been Mark My Words.
Have you ever lost a cat? And have you ever wanted to get your cat back after you lost it? I'm Andrew Hoffman. I invented the Lost Cat Magnet. Just turn it on.
Suffer injuries.
Thank you for tuning in to KVRX 91.7 FM radio. This is Mark Skoll with Mark My Words, a sports talk radio show where we're talking all things sports all the time. We just got finished talking about the Texas football team, so we'll keep talking Texas and move on to some Texas basketball. Isaiah Taylor, the point guard for the Texas Longhorns, he has until this Sunday to figure out if he's ready to declare for the NBA draft or not. In my opinion, Isaiah Taylor should not go to the draft. He's not ready. He's too small. He was a projected second-round pick. This guy could end up being a first-round talent if he stays at Texas. And the one reason why is Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart, the new head coach at the University of Texas, is the perfect coach for Isaiah Taylor. I mean, he's a guards coach. He's a players coach, and he brings intensity. And I actually watched a short snippet of a video of Shaka Smart coaching, and this guy was like doing the drills with the players. It was a drill like where you have to dive for the ball and then get up and dive for a ball again, just to show that passion. And I saw Shaka Smart running the play, showing the players how to run this drill, and he was going all out, and it seemed like he was doing a lot better than the players for VCU. And I think since Shaka Smart's here at Texas, I think Isaiah Taylor has to stay. Hopefully Shaka Smart has developed a relationship with Isaiah Taylor for the short time that he's been here, so that he can end up getting Isaiah Taylor to stay. But I think Isaiah Taylor would be foolish to go, because personally, I don't think he gets drafted. And if he does get drafted, he's going in the second round. He's not going to be making that much money. I mean, he's going to be making a lot more money than I am with this show, but I think he could definitely make a lot more money in the future. And he's not good enough to be an NBA point guard yet. For an NBA point guard, you have to be able to shoot an outside shot, and if you can't shoot an outside shot, you have to be like really athletic, like Derrick Rose or Rajon Rondo. And Isaiah Taylor, he's only 6'3", 170 pounds. The guy is skinny. He's definitely got a lot of potential to be a great player, but he doesn't have a jump shot. He doesn't have an outside. He's not an outside threat. The only move he has is a floater inside the paint or driving to the hole. He can't even pass it inside too. Like, who knows if he'd even be able to pass it inside to a dominant big man like Dwight Howard or Pau Gasol in the NBA. I think if he went now if he declared for the draft today, he'd be a backup point guard for his whole career. I don't think he's good enough. And if the Harrison twins are projected second round picks, Isaiah Taylor's not going to get drafted. He definitely needs to stay at Texas. He needs some more grooming. And another advantage about staying in college and going to the NBA. Normally, I would say if you have the opportunity to make the money, you take it. Like I was like Miles Turner, I understand why he's going to the draft. He's a projected lottery pick. He's going to be making millions. Isaiah Taylor, he's a projected second-round pick, not even getting drafted at all. He's not projected to get anything. This guy has plenty of upside, but he's not ready yet. He could be making a lot more money in the future. So I think he definitely needs to stay, and I think Smart's havoc-wrecking system will increase Isaiah Taylor's defensive ability as well. And I think Isaiah Taylor, he just needs to stay. And with Kerwin Roach and Eric Davis coming in, that'll allow them to develop too. So from a Texas fan's perspective and Isaiah Taylor's perspective, I think it's the smart decision to stay. He'll be the leader on this team with Jonathan Holmes gone. And That's just what Texas needs. If Texas doesn't have Isaiah Taylor, they're going to struggle a lot next year. And I think I think Isaiah Taylor would struggle in the NBA next year if he even makes it to the NBA. So I think it's kind of a easy decision, in my opinion, for Isaiah Taylor to make to stay at Texas. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's going to, even if he makes it to the NBA, I don't think he's going to be making that much money. So those are my 2 cents on Isaiah Taylor. I actually recently read this article. This actually came out today on the Bleacher Report, and it's titled "The One That Got Away: NFL Execs Tell the Tales of Their Biggest Draft Misses." I found this article very interesting. They said that the Eagles actually passed on Russell Wilson, and the big name that was missed, in my opinion, was Joe Montana. Apparently, the Chicago Bears, were seriously considering drafting Joe Montana. Bill Tobin, who was the general manager at the time, he was thinking about taking Dan Hampton in the first round, which he ended up doing, a future Hall of Famer. And he was seriously considering Joe Montana in the second round. He was really excited about he had it on his in every mock draft they put out. Joe Montana was that third round pick, and then on draft day, Finks, I'm not sure his first name, but Finks made the decision. He said, "We're not picking up Joe Montana. We're picking up Willie McClendon. We need a backup running back for Walter Payton." He liked what Bob Avellini was doing for the Bears at the time. And now looking back at it, I know hindsight's 20/20, but does anyone who is not a Bears fan even remember Bob Avellini? I know I'm a Bears fan. The only reason why I know his name is because my dad has criticized every single throw he's made in his career. I mean, if the Bears could have had Joe... They drafted Willie McClendon, the running back, and Willie McClendon, he only played 4 seasons in the NFL with the Bears, and he never rushed for more than 160 yards in a season. And I'm sorry, the name was Jim Finks, who decided to pass on Joe Montana. And Joe Montana, I have the list of the draft right now. Willie McClendon was taken with the 66 overall pick in the third round. Out of Georgia, and then Joe Montana was the 82 overall pick from Notre Dame. So the Bears passed on a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And if you think about it, if Joe Montana would have played for the Bears in the 1980s, that team would have been completely dominant. I mean, the Bears only won 1 Super Bowl in 1985 or 1985 season. They only won 1 Super Bowl with that amazing defense and Walter Payton. And probably the reason why was Jim McMahon. He was an average quarterback at best. I think the most touchdown passes he threw in a season was 15. And Joe Montana is sitting there breaking records. He's a 4-time Super Bowl MVP, 4-time Super Bowl winner. And he's 4-0 in Super Bowls. If he was playing for the Bears, they could have won at least 5 or 6 Super Bowls. Probably would have won more with Chicago than they would have San Francisco, just because they had Walter Payton, who's probably one of the best running backs of all time, top 3 running back, top 5 running back of all time, the best defense of all time, and all they needed was a quarterback. So if the Bears would have drafted Joe Montana, they would have been a dynasty for sure. Everyone talks about the 1985 Bears. They probably would have been talking about the 1980s Bears, not the 1985 Bears. So that was definitely a mistake on Jim Finks' part. He actually died in 1994, so he was classified as a great manager by all who knew him and studied him. He actually had some great picks. I mean, Dan Hampton was a smart guy, smart player to pick, future Hall of Famer, probably one of the greatest Bears of all time. But he definitely made some regrettable decisions, and I think that Joe Montana decision is at the top of his list. And I found that article very interesting today. Dan Pompei actually tweeted it out on Twitter, so I was very interested in that. Now, enough of football talk for now. The NFL draft is next week, so I'll get into that in a little bit. But what's been really on my mind lately is the NBA playoffs. I've been trying to watch most of the games that I can when I'm not doing homework, but most of these series, a lot of them are blowouts. Hawks currently are up 2-0 on the Nets. Celtics are losing 3-0 to the Cavs. Bulls are up 3-0 on the Bucks. Raptors up 2-0 on the Wizards. I'm sorry, Wizards up 2-0 on the Raptors. Warriors up 3-0 on the Pelicans. Rockets 2-0 over the Mavs. And then the only series that's tied is Clippers-Spurs at one game apiece. I think that's definitely the most intriguing series in the playoffs. Honestly, when I was looking at these first round matchups, I was telling my buddy Brooks, I was like, you could easily predict all of these games. I know the West is stacked, but all these teams in the West, you knew who was going to win each series. Portland and Memphis, it was pretty easy to think that Memphis would win because Portland, they're knocked up, they're all injured. Wesley Matthews is out for the season. Aflalo's out. LaMarcus Aldridge is playing with a torn ligament in his hand. They're not the same Portland Trailblazers team that they were earlier in the season. And Memphis is banged up a little bit too, but they're still not as banged up as Portland is, and they're not missing many key pieces. It's more of a wear and tear, not really actually people who are out on the bench. Hawks Nets, that's pretty easy. I mean, I think the Hawks have they'll struggle in the next round, whoever they play with, and I think that'll be. I mean, everyone thought the Hawks would beat the Nets. Celtics, Cavs. I like Brad Stevens a lot. I think he's going to be one of the best coaches in the NBA, but I think there was no way the Celtics were going to be able to compete with the Cavs, and they are making some games close. Some games were pretty close to the last 6 minutes of the game when LeBron and Kyrie decided to step it up and just blow the game out of proportions. I mean, all games have been two of the games have been decided by only 8 points, and the Celtics had the lead for most of the game in Game 2, and they just blew it. I think the Celtics, they're finished under 500 this year. They'll be lucky to win a game in a series in the playoffs. And I definitely think that they're on the rise. I don't think that they're far from it. I think they have Danny Ainge has done a great job for the Celtics. They have plenty of first-round picks lined up, and they could sign a big-name free agent in either this offseason or the next. So I think the Celtics are definitely on the rise, and with Brad Stevens under the helm, I think they're going to be possibly a dynasty in a couple of years. Cavs are really good. Whenever LeBron James is on your team, that team's going to be really good. So I'll get back into that Cavs LeBron James discussion in a little bit. Bulls Bucks. Bulls are up 3-0. The game last night actually went into double overtime. The Bulls were able to pull out the win 113-106 over the Bucks. I was able to watch the third quarter and the fourth quarter for the most part. I actually had to come up here to the station to work some things out, so I missed overtime. But from what I saw in this Bulls game last night, well, first let me talk about the Bucks. Bucks, they're definitely, like the Celtics, they're definitely a team that's on the rise. They have a bunch of young talent. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I actually got his name right, the Greek freak. He's going to be a great player in the NBA. The guy is long. He needs to clean some stuff up, though. I think he's a little bit wild, out of control sometimes. But he can definitely, and he needs to work on his jump shot. His release is a little bit too slow, and it'll be blocked. It's been blocked easily. But I think he's definitely a good defender. He can definitely get up the court easily, and he's long too, so it's hard for him to guard. And he's a guard too, so he's like, I'm not sure how tall he is, but he's significantly taller than most of the players on the Bulls team. And he's a guard. He's a shooting guard, and he's definitely going to be one of the Bucks' best players in the future. He's definitely the Bucks. I would say he's the Bucks' best player right now, and I think he's going to end up being a pretty good talent. And then Chris Middleton, who brought the Bucks back in this game, that guy's going to be making a big paycheck this summer, or earning himself a big paycheck this summer. He's a great talent. I know he's probably not a starter, or maybe he's a starter on he'd be like a role player on a really good team, but he's definitely he's a good player. I would definitely want the Bulls to have him as like a fourth option in the starting lineup. And then I just like what this Bucks team is doing. They're definitely great defensively, and you've seen it this whole Bulls series. It's hard for the Bulls to really get anything going. Pau Gasol hasn't done much offensively, and early in the season he had a 46-point game against the Bucks, his career high, and the Bucks have shut him down. They've double teamed him. He hasn't been able to do anything. They've been forcing other people to take shots, and they're definitely doing a great job. Jason Kidd has definitely done a great job with his team. He's third in the polls for Coach of the Year. I think they're definitely going to be a team on the rise. And the fact that they made it to the playoffs without Jabari Parker, who I think is going to end up being a stud in this league, they're definitely a team to watch out for in the near future. I don't think they're there yet. They're definitely going to be there in the future. The Bulls, on the other hand, the Bulls look really good. I mean, some games are a little bit close in this Bucks series, but this Bucks team is really good defensively, and the Bulls needed that before they possibly face the Cavs in round 2, which probably will happen since both teams are up 3-0 in both of their series. The Bulls will look to bring out the brooms Saturday in Milwaukee. I believe it's 4:30 Central Time. But what I really like from this Bulls team right now, I know we haven't been seeing stuff from Powell, we haven't been seeing stuff from Joakim that much, or at least offensively from Joakim Noah. But what I love is Derrick Rose. He's playing like he's a different type of player right now. We're seeing him knock down a lot of threes. There was 3 Bulls yesterday who hit 4+ threes in the game, which is the first time it's happened in Bulls playoff history. It was Derrick Rose, Tony Snell, and Mike Dunleavy. But going back to Derrick Rose is. Everyone's criticizing his jump shot. His jump shots got a little bit better. He only had one bad half in the series, and it was game 2. He didn't score any points. He missed every single shot, but he was able to. He ended the second quarter, or he ended the second half. He ended the game with 15 points. So he just had a bad half. And I've been watching him play, he's just having all these acrobatic moves. It's like the old D Rose, but this time he's actually hitting jump shots. He's not just the guy who drives to the lane. He's hitting jump shots consistently, and I think they can. This is I'm going to transition into this. I think the Bulls can really compete against the Cavs. In most years, I'm like, oh no, the Bulls are playing the Cavs, or Bulls are playing LeBron, I guess, and the Heat. The Bulls and Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. As long as they've been in Chicago, they've never been able to beat LeBron in the playoffs. LeBron, I mean, they win game 1, and then they lose the next 4. That's what it's been like for the Bulls in the playoffs against LeBron. This year, it's different. The Bulls, I feel like they're very hungry, and this is the most hungry I've seen the Bulls in a long time, and I think that's mostly coming from Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose he's just playing out of his mind right now. He even said he's playing like a different person. He doesn't feel anything in his knee. He's just going out there and playing. And he played 45 minutes last night, and that shows that he can. This injury, hopefully this injury phase is over for him, and he's back to playing basketball. And wow, he can really light it up. Derrick Rose, I wouldn't say he's the best point guard in the league. I'd definitely say Steph Curry or Russell Westbrook has that above him. But the way he's been playing, and they've been cheering MVP at his games, and that's rightly so. He's been playing really well. I definitely like it. But another reason why I think the Bulls can't compete with the Cavs is that they finally have offensive presence in the postgame. Joakim Noah, love the guy to death. Great defender, great passer. The guy cannot make a jump shot or make a layup to save his life. He makes it every once in a while. But Pau Gasol, that guy, he's so consistent. He's really good. He can make a jump shot with ease. I would personally, I'd rather have him shooting jump shots over most people on that team. He's really good. Pau Gasol, and then Taj Gibson coming off the bench. He's been struggling a little bit in the playoffs, but I think he'll definitely turn around when it comes to the Cavs series. And then I've talked to multiple people, and I always get haze from them, and they're all saying, "Oh, the Bulls are going to get demolished by the Cavs. There's no way they have a chance." Going back to Easter Sunday, the Bulls played the Cavs. They lost, I believe it was by 5 points, 99-94, or maybe it was 4 points, 99-95. It was in that range. the Bulls lost by 5 points, and they weren't able to. And in that game on Easter Sunday, Kyrie Irving hit a half-court shot. J.R. Smith hit a half-court shot, and J.R. Smith, I believe, also hit a fadeaway three-pointer falling out of bounds in the corner. So that's 9 points right there. 9 lucky shots. The basketball gods were just in Cleveland's favor on Easter Sunday. And the Bulls were playing without Derrick Rose that game. Think about it. If the Bulls had Derrick Rose, and the Cavs had everybody. They had Kevin Love, they had LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, J.R. Smith, who hit, I think, 8 threes that game. And they had everybody. The Bulls didn't have Derrick Rose. The Bulls now have Derrick Rose. And I'd want to see someone stop him. I don't think Kyrie Irving can stop him. I think Kyrie Irving's a great player. I don't know how great he is defensively. I don't know if he could stop Derrick Rose. And if you double team Powell, Derrick Rose will knock it down, or Tony Snell will knock it down, or Mike Dunleavy. I mean, the Bulls definitely have to bring their A game in this series against the Cavs, but I definitely think they can do it. But another thing, they just need to get healthy again. And as soon as the playoffs started, I was like, yes, the Bulls are finally healthy. This is what they need. But then Nikola Mirotic goes down with an injury in Game 2 against the Bucks with a little scuffle between him and Zaza Pachulia. If the Bulls definitely need Nikola Mirotic in order to compete in this series, if they have all the talent around them, this is the best Bulls team on paper that Chicago has seen in a long time, and they definitely have the talent. They just need to put it all together for 7 games. And I definitely think they can do it. And I think they can, if they beat the Cavs, I think they'll definitely have the confidence to end up beating the Hawks or the Wizards, most likely, in the Eastern Conference Finals and end up making a Finals. I know I'm a Bulls fan, and I'm kind of a homer, but I think it's all there. Like, the Bulls, they lost by 5, and the Cavs hit 9, they got 9 points from lucky shots. And they didn't have Derrick Rose that game. They won by 4 or 5 or whatever it was. The Bulls definitely have the talent. They can do it. Everyone's been criticizing my decision. Everyone's saying Derrick Rose should have took this postseason off again. Derrick Rose hasn't won a playoff series since 2011 when he made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat when the team was the number 1 seed. Derrick Rose is hungrier. He's hungrier than everyone else I'm pretty sure hungrier than anyone in the NBA. LeBron, and then another reason why is Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, they don't have playoff experience. They have never been in a playoff game. I know Kyrie Irving went for like 30 points in his first playoff game, and Kevin Love has looked impressive, but they have plenty of time left. Derrick Rose, he's been fighting for 3 years now to get back into his MVP self, and if he keeps playing the way he is, I think they can definitely upset the Cavs. I think it's definitely a possibility. And I'm saying if they play the Cavs in the second round, which they will, if they're able to win 3-0 or keep their 3-0 lead over the Cavs, over the Bucks, and if the Cavs are able to keep their 3-0 lead over the Celtics, I think that series goes to 7 games, and I think that's going to end up being probably the best series of the playoffs besides the finals. By far. I think the rivalry there between Jokic and LeBron James is huge. And you're seeing Derrick Rose actually play with, like, before Derrick Rose's injury, he'd always be the quiet guy in the court. He wouldn't really get pumped up. But now you're seeing him raise his arms, wave his arms to the crowd, getting the crowd pumped up. And I think that game goes 7 games. And I think the Bulls end up coming out on top in Cleveland for Game 7. But the Bulls, they have to come to play in Cleveland. That's the thing, and I think they can do that. As long as the refs don't take the game out of proportions, if they let both teams play basketball, I think that's going to end up being the best series. I say Bulls in 7. And now I've got some more time with you guys. I'm going to stop the basketball talk for now. I just want to tell everybody that the score, provide everybody with the score update. Dallas is leading over Houston 74-65 with 9:52 left to go in the third. This is definitely a must-win for Dallas, or else they'll be going down 3-0 in the series. And Toronto is leading Washington 35-33 in Washington. Another must-win for Toronto, and this game's also on the road, with Toronto being down 2-0. Well, the NFL draft is next Thursday in Chicago, and it's the first time it's being held in Chicago in over 50 years. So it's definitely going to be a very exciting, or a different atmosphere, I'd say. The two first overall, or the two picks in the draft, it's pretty cut and clear. It's going to be Jameis Winston, number 1, to Tampa Bay, unless, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure Jameis Winston ends up going to Tampa Bay. I think that's going to be a great fit for him. I think Lovie Smith is a great head coach. I think, well, he's an okay head coach. I think Jameis Winston he'll be a good fit there. He'll definitely have great wide receivers. And I think that's definitely a team that could end up being on the rise if Jameis Winston plays like he can. And one reason why I'd like Jameis Winston over Mariota is he wins games. I mean, that's what he does. He might have a lot of turnovers, but the guy wins games. He only lost one game in his collegiate career, and that was against Oregon, against Marcus Mariota. But I think he's definitely a guy who's going to run this league for many years. And I watched John Gruden's QB camp, and as many stupid decisions as Jameis Winston makes off the field, and John Gruden made me seem to believe that Jameis Winston makes all the right decisions on the field. Sounds like he has a good presence. He's a good leader. Definitely knows what he's talking about. So I think Jameis Winston is definitely the clear-cut number 1 overall pick in the draft. And it's going to be different. It's going to be weird not seeing Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota won't be showing up to the NFL draft. It'll be weird not to see probably the first 2 overall picks taken, or not even at the draft in Chicago. Tennessee Titans, I believe they will select Marcus Mariota. I feel like they have to go this route. And everyone's talking about how the Bears might trade Jay Cutler to the Titans for that pick, and because Jay Cutler has Nashville ties, or the Titans will be trading for Phillip Rivers because he has ties with Kent Wisenhunt, who's the current coach of the Titans. But for me, if you're thinking realistically, Rivers and Cutler, they don't have many years left. Marcus Mariota could end up being a franchise QB for 10 plus years. I feel like they definitely have to go Mariota. I feel like that's the clear way to go. There's no other way to go. I mean, maybe Leonard Williams, but that team needs a quarterback. I mean, if you look at all the teams who are in the playoffs or who win Super Bowls, they all have good quarterbacks. And you see all the teams who don't make the playoffs, they all have bad quarterbacks. The Titans, they didn't make the playoffs last year. They had a bad quarterback. Zach Mettenberger, as much as people want to praise this guy, that guy's not going to end up being a great quarterback. Marcus Mariota, I like him a lot. I honestly want the Bears. I want him to fall to the Bears. I want the Bears to select him because the guy, he does something that most quarterbacks don't. He just doesn't turn the ball over. And that's something that many teams need. If they have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over and he throws a lot of touchdown passes, he's going to do a lot of good things for you. And I know many people will say that Oregon just has a bunch of athletic wide receivers and running backs, which is what allowed Marcus Mariota to exceed pretty well. But he doesn't turn the ball over. I know he fumbles the ball a little bit, but he doesn't throw interceptions, and that's a big thing from the quarterback position. And I've seen plenty of quarterbacks throw plenty of interceptions at Texas and with the Bears. Rex Grossman, Jay Cutler, Tyrone Swoops, all those guys. And a quarterback is definitely the key to why teams are good, and I think Tennessee definitely needs to go the route with Marcus Mariota. I think that's definitely the way to go. If they want to be good in the future, they definitely go that way. Third overall pick, I'd say Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams, the defensive lineman out of USC. He was actually on SportsCenter the other day. He sounds like he's definitely motivated to do really well in the NFL. he says he's trying to model his game like J.J. Watt. He's actually talked to J.J. a couple of times. And if you're modeling your game after J.J. Watt, you're seeking J.J. Watt out for advice. This guy's definitely doing the right thing. He's reaching out to the best defensive player in the game, a guy who he wants to be like. And if he ends up being like J.J. Watt, if he has that work ethic and dedication that J.J. Watt has, which it sounds like he does, he could end up being really good. And this guy, if Jameis Winston, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Tennessee Titans didn't have quarterback problems, Leonard Williams would be the number 1 overall pick. I think that's easy. He's definitely the safest pick in the draft. He's definitely going to be a stud in the NFL for many years to come if he doesn't get injured. But I feel like he's definitely the best guy to go for in this draft. He's definitely the safest pick. But it was weird in Todd McShay's mock draft, he has Leonard Williams falling all the way to number 7 to Chicago, which I'd be really happy if he fell to Chicago, but I don't think that's happening. I think he goes 3rd overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and with Gus Bradley there, former Seattle defensive coordinator in Jacksonville, I feel like defense would definitely be the route they need to go. They don't really need, maybe they go, you really never know though. Maybe they go wide receiver, give Blake Bortles another option, but I think that's definitely the way that Jacksonville goes is Leonard Williams. I think that's definitely the best path they need to take. And then Oakland, I have Oakland selecting Amari Cooper. I know their defense struggles too. My buddy Jeff Barker said, in all the mock drafts I've seen, they either have the Oakland selecting Amari Cooper or Kevin White, the wide receiver out of West Virginia, and I feel like that's definitely the way Oakland has to go. I know they messed up with a first-round pick wide receiver a couple years ago drafting Darius Hayward-Bay, but these two guys are different. They're different kind of wide receivers. This is, from what I've heard, is that this is the best wide receiver class in NFL history, and last wide receiving class was tremendous. So if they're better than last year's NFL wide receiving draft class, I feel like you have to take one of these wide receivers if they're available, if you need it. And Derek Carr, he didn't have any options on offense. His number 1 target was James Jones, who was a 3rd string or even a 4th string wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. And then all the other wide receivers were brought up off of the practice squad. Derek Carr, you need to build confidence in this guy. They had a bad season last year, and they need to get some wins under their belt. And I think with some wide receivers, that's the first thing you need to go with. And now that the Raiders signed Michael Crabtree from the 49ers, they'll have James Jones as the 3rd string. If they draft Amari Cooper or Kevin White, which I think they go Amari Cooper because I think he's the better wide receiver, Derek Carr could end up being a really great quarterback in the NFL. He's definitely Amari Cooper's probably the safest wide receiver selection in the draft. And I think he's definitely going to help Derek Carr out. I say Washington, but honestly, you never know when anything happens. Washington, I say they go Dante Fowler Jr. They had, if Marcus Mariota is available, I say for these next 2 picks for Washington or New York, I say you go Marcus Mariota if he's available. But I don't think he's going to be available. I think the Redskins should go with Dante Fowler Jr. Apparently, he's probably one of the most NFL-ready players in this draft. The outside linebacker out of Florida. He's probably the most talented player in the draft. I think that'd be definitely a great pick for the Washington Redskins. I think the New York Jets should end up selecting Bud Dupree, the outside linebacker out of Kentucky. He's definitely a really good player. He'd fit great in Todd Bowles' defensive system, and I think he has better size and speed than Vic Beasley. So I'd definitely go Bud Dupree. For my last pick in this NFL mock draft tonight, it's number 7 overall pick. I think the Chicago Bears, as much general manager Ryan Pace when he was first hired as general manager, he was talking about how the Bears need to select someone who is the best player on the board. And I think if Mariota isn't available, at 7. I think they definitely go Kevin White, the other wide receiver, the second best wide receiver in the draft in my mind, out of West Virginia. They need defense. The Bears need a lot of things, but after getting rid of Brandon Marshall, I think the offensive game is going to struggle next year, and they need a deep threat. I know Alshon's he's a good deep threat, but he's not a fast deep threat. Kevin White, he had a 4.3 40. This guy's fast. He's big. He's got great hands. He'd be too tough to pass up. He's such a great player. I think he's going to end up being the tandem of Kevin White and Alshon Jeffrey could be a dangerous duo if they both stay healthy. I think that's if he's available for the number 7 overall pick, I think that's definitely the way the Bears should end up going. But who knows? Draft day, you never know what's going to happen for any of these teams. And then I'll end tonight on a happy note. I write for the Daily Texan, and I cover the MLB. And I'm happy to announce that the first Naval Academy grad in 94 years has appeared in his first MLB game for the St. Louis Cardinals. His name is Mitch Harris. He graduated a little over from the Naval Academy a little over 7 years ago, and then he finished his service about 2 years ago. But now he's in the MLB as fulfilling his dream to be a Major League Baseball player. The St. Louis Cardinals drafted him in the 13th round of the 2008 draft, but he knew, and the Cardinals knew, that he would have to fulfill his commitment to the Navy before he could end up joining the organization. He's the first, like I said, he's the first naval graduate in over 94 years to appear in a Major League Baseball game since Nemo Gaines. Does anyone know who Nemo Gaines is? Well, the last time he played in the game was 1921 with the Washington Senators, so you probably don't know who he is. But what's crazy about this Mitch Harris story is that he's been on a boat for like 5 years, and he was sailing all over the world, serving his country, and all he could think about was playing baseball. And he even he had to keep his arm in check too, in order to keep his game in check, keep his arm and game in check. And the way he would do this was his throwing partner was actually a cook on the ship who was from the Dominican Republic, which is known for bringing a lot of Major League Baseball players to America. And he was this guy this cook on the ship was the only player or the only person on the ship who grew up around baseball, and so they play catch on the ship. And I thought that was a pretty cool story. But when Harris won't be an ordinary rookie. He's 29 years old, which is very old for a rookie. And when he first came in the spring training 2 years ago, his fastest pitch was around 80 miles per hour, which is nothing close to a major league level. It's barely could pitch at a high school level. But then it only motivated him to get better. And then this spring training, his cutter, his split finger fastball, and his breaking ball were looking great. He was able to get his speed back up into the mid to low 90s. He also had a 1.86 ERA in 8 appearances in this year for the Cardinals in spring training. And then he posted a 2.45 ERA for AAA Memphis. It was the love of the game and a lot of hard work that made Mitch Harris able to achieve his goal of playing baseball in the major leagues. Well, that does it for my time tonight. This has been Mark My Words with Mark Skol Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Skol Jr. That's at MarkSkoljr. Thanks for sticking with me on this beautiful Friday night in Austin, Texas. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you next week.